Hello, welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. Today I will be chatting with Christina, who is the founder of Scotland's very first Women in Space conference. We'll be chatting about the 3 C's in running a conference: community, creativity, and collaboration, and how to take care of yourself along the way. So Christina is a final year mechanical engineering student at the University of Edinburgh. In 2020, she founded Scotland's first Women in Space conference to encourage more women and gender minorities to find their place in space, as well as her blog, Miss Astronautica, where she speaks about space, interviews women in STEAM, and shares lifestyle advice. A little bit about why I host these talks. It is my deepest belief that self-care, in the form of equipping oneself with the right personal and professional development tools, is anything but indulgent. Self-care involves prioritizing one's well-being. It is a comprehensive concept which, if practiced correctly, enhances our relationship with ourselves, others, and our immediate environment. With my series, Wellness Wednesdays with Minorities in STEM, I hope to challenge the norm with the audacious notion that to succeed, you have to take utmost care of yourself first. Intellectually, socially, spiritually, and physically, before anything else, particularly amongst us minorities. And so I will be inviting Christina on. Hello, can you hear me all right?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay,
Oh my God.
brilliant. So I have already given your official spiel. I've spoken about your conference and I've spoken briefly about your blog, but can you please tell me a short introduction about yourself that's quirky and colorful? And, if you had to describe yourself in a catchy sentence, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. First of all, can I just say I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for hosting me. I love all the work that you do, and all your previous Wellness Wednesdays have been brilliant. I still have to catch up on some, but yeah, of course. So intro about me. So hello everyone. I think Ricky's kind of given you the official intro, but I am Christina. I'm a final year student at the University of Edinburgh. Of course, I think Ricky told you probably about founder and chair of Women in Space. I love the space community. I'm also part of UK Sets. I blog at Miss Astronautica, which I believe Ricky mentioned. I'm part of the Scottish Space Leadership Council's New Voices group, recently joined, which is quite exciting. But I would describe myself as so I'm a proud Canadian, but also part-time Scot and Italian. So you'll hear my accent kind of change. People get confused by that. But I love languages, being outdoors, and just combining all my passions kind of into one area. And of course, I love people. I love chatting with lots of people. So yeah, that's kind of me.
Brilliant. Okay, so I kind of wanted to pivot into your STEM interest and why you chose the specific STEM path you did, and how that kind of ties into you wanting to make a difference.
Yeah, so I have kind of like a weird STEM interest, I'd say. Growing up, I didn't really think like, oh, I'm going to be an engineer, or, like I really want to go into STEM. I was actually really interested in languages. Like I loved connecting with people and stuff. And then when I kind of got into high school, I was like, oh, interesting. Like physics is really like quite interesting to me. Like I wasn't the best at it. I was pretty good and I worked hard. But once I kind of got to university stage, I was like, where's somewhere where I can make the most impact? Like, where's somewhere where I can learn more about the world around me and how to make a difference? And so I thought that mechanical engineering would be a great fit for me, just because, it's a combination of lots of different fields. We do a bit of aerospace, a bit of chemical engineering, a bit of electrical engineering. And so really it just comes down to I wanted to learn more about how the world works and also just how to make a difference more in the world. And I think you had another question there, and I can't remember what else you were asking, but
Yeah, in terms of kind of putting it all together in making a specific difference, do you have something in mind?
okay. So yeah, the crazy thing about it all is I used to actually, I don't really think I do at this point, and I think that's okay. I think a lot of the times, like it's so great. Like I'm so like I think you, of course, are so passionate about systems and safety, and I think that's really great. And I know tons of other people who are really interested in specifically like structures or stuff like that. But for me, I just kind of float around and see kind of where I fit in. And like, I just want to do everything, and I really should narrow it down a little bit, but I'm really interested in like human exploration, kind of getting humans out into space. So just like kind of stuff that blends with like biology, like kind of a little bit of like medicine as well. So kind of varied interests. But yeah, I kind of hop around a lot, and I'm just keen to see where this crazy adventure takes me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think like anyone has to have one specific thing. And it's so interesting because like someone can, or someone can say, well, no, I don't. And this is like everything that I care about. And I just wanted to like hold space for that. So this was a perfect response. And so I guess to follow up with that, how has your specific school research, blogging, conference founding, package helped you to manifest that? How have you used all of these things to explore the various things that you want to do, and hold space for yourself to be multi-passionate, multidisciplinary, and hold space for yourself to not have to choose one thing?
That is a brilliant question, because you know, like when I entered university, I want to say like I was so lost. Like I had 2 concussions in my last year of high school, and I entered university being like so scattered, confused, and feeling so behind. And so I think getting involved in like external activities was really beneficial for me, because it really showed me, okay, like this is what's out there, but also kind of made me realize the importance of education and stuff. So I think in terms of what I learned at university, I think it's really given me like the tools. Like I can go into situations, analyze things, especially with engineering. Like we have to analyze so many things, like write up reports and do all these things, like work in huge teams and try to actually get like a really difficult technical project done. So I think it's given me like a really good kind of like can do it attitude, like how to do all those things. But I think really like my voluntary experience has offered me a lot. Like I've learned really how to work with teams. My leadership skills have really developed, and especially with the space conference, just like having to speak to so many different people and coordinate so many different people across different time zones. Yeah, I think it's just all of that has like it's gotten me like kind of a foothold into the space sector as well. So yeah, I think it's just like I think it's good to kind of follow your interests, and just if something cool pops up, then just be like, cool, like as long as I feel like I can handle it, I'm gonna go do that and participate in that. And yeah, I think hopefully that kind of answers the question.
No, absolutely. And so I think you had shared, and this was like a footnote that I put in, that there was a point when you left university for a while, and then you had to come back. And that's when you were kind of really inspired by the space sector, and you found more communities online of women involved in this, leading to your blog and wanting to better find that community. So can you speak to kind of the circumstances that led you to dropping out for that bit, and then what helped you come back?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's such an important topic to talk about as well. So thank you for bringing this up. Because yeah, as I said before, I entered university. I had a really rough time in my first year kind of getting adjusted to everything. I'm not gonna lie, I failed a lot of things. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, my friends are all super smart. You guys, I was so jealous of you, and still am always like kind of jealous of your ability to like really do well. And yeah, I think just that combined with just a few family things, I was like, you know what? I really need to take a step back and just kind of realign myself, figure out what exactly I want to do. Is engineering really for me? And just see where that takes me. And I think I grew so much during that time. I ended up getting a job on this bar at my students' union, and that was like really great fun because I got to speak to so many people, but it also kind of allowed me that time to explore things that interested me, such as like I found out about the space sector in Scotland, and I was like, this is really, really cool. Like I didn't know this existed. And so I think it's really important to just like do you. Like you're not on any kind of timeline or anything, and this is like a lesson I learned. You just like need to do what's best for yourself. And if that means taking some time away from university, or even like 2 years away from university, or even like taking an alternative career path because trades are also a really good option, then you know, you just gotta do you. And yeah, and just seize every opportunity you can take, like kind of during that period of transition for you, and just learn as much as you can.
So, thank you so much for sharing that and for being, brave enough to speak to it. So, how long specifically did you take off? And what helped you make your mind on coming back?
Okay, so I only took a year out, but honestly, I was tempted to take a second year out because I would like even I don't know, like later on during my degree because I was like, oh, I've got so many things going on. But the thing that specifically made me come back, uh, let me think. I think like I have a very like I hate giving up and stuff, and I think in some cases you need to be able to let go of things and be like, okay, I need to take a step away. But I was like, you know what? I started this degree. I got through 2 years of it, and I want to finish it off just because like I only have 2 more years to go. And I think the thing that drew me back was I saw that my friend actually got this internship at this really cool space company, and that's like kind of where I learned about space in Scotland. And I was like, hey, that's awesome. And she's in engineering. And so that kind of got me reading a little bit about all these incredible women. And I also found these really cool like pages. I think during that period I might have found out about like you and like Brooke Owen's fellowship and stuff. And I was like, this is really cool. And there are a lot of engineers, and like I really like how you share your story online. You're like, I've gone through struggles, but I've managed to work it out myself, and like, kind of lean on my community and follow my passions and stuff. And I found that really inspiring. So yeah, I think it's really about like community, figuring out what's best for you. And yeah, I think that it was the community really drew me back in, I think.
Okay, and can you speak a little bit to how soon after that you kind of conceptualized your Women in Space conference? Like when that happened, did UK SEDS happen first? Did any of your other space involvement activities outside of school happen first? Like how did you kind of conceptualize your conference?
Great question. Yeah, I have like so I'm kind of a recent addition to the space sector actually. So just for reference, I started university in 2016, and then I took my year out 2018, I want to say, to 2019. Yeah, that's right. And I think I found out kind of about space in like spring 2019, and I was like, this is really cool. And then I think I kind of was like, I can't really be a part of that though, until I went to this Women in Space event hosted by this great organization in Scotland called Equate Scotland. And there I met with fellow students as well as industry professionals who were working all across the space sector. And I was like, hey, this is going on in like kind of my home country, I guess. And that was October 2019. And then after that, I was like, I need to get in on this. Like, do we have a rocketry team at my university? Like, what's going on here? And so I found out about UK SEDS at that event and was like, I want to join them, but was a bit shy. I'm naturally very shy, which is, yeah. So like even being here on Instagram, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking to like people and stuff online. But yeah, so I joined UK SEDS in like December 2019. Same with the rocketry team. And funny story about the rocketry team, sorry, this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I thought it'd be kind of interesting to share, is I like during that time I went to like I wanted to go to space networking events, and so I kind of signed myself up to all these like random things, and I just ended up speaking to all these like really awesome people. And at one of these networking events, I met this guy who was trying to set up the rocketry team at my university. And we vaguely knew each other from our course. And I was like, oh, you're like rocketry team guy. And he was like, yeah. And so a few weeks later, he sent me a message being like, hey, I really want you to be a part of the rocketry team. I saw you going around networking with all these people with like no fear. And I was like, sure. So I became like sponsorship manager for that. And so this all kind of came together at the end of like 2019. And in terms of conference, I know that's what we're specifically here to talk about, so I'll segue into that. I went to a Women in Tech conference in 2018, and it was brilliant. Like, I was really inspired by that and the lady who set it up. And so I was like, I want to do a conference one day. That's such a crazy thing, but let's do it. And so It really came to life, I want to say early 2020. I kind of had that idea kicking around in my mind. I was really, really busy over summer because I had an internship and I was trying to blog and I was trying to do a European Space Agency like online course. But I was like, I want to make this conference happen. So I started really planning it out over summer and then advertised for people in August of 2020, and we got the team together September, October 2020, and somehow managed to pull off a conference in 6 months. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. That
Lots
I
of
think
info.
goes brilliantly into just the first topic of creativity. So what I was picking up from what you shared was that attending other events catered to women in STEM, but just in a different capacity, inspired you to create one of your own. And you didn't realize how quick almost you could manifest this. Like it maybe, felt so much bigger than yourself. And you just realized when you kind of got the ball rolling that it could actually happen like very soon. And so in terms of finding this idea and then driving home the vision for your team, could you speak to like how you described that vision to your team when you had to convince people to join you? And as you were speaking to them, how did you find the spirit to believe in yourself when you knew that you had a rocky path to university before that? Like, how did you hold space for both of those things that had happened to you? And how did you let the more confident Christina shine?
All very, very great questions. I think so. First off, I want to start by when you start something new, I think it's really important to have a vision, and it's important for the team to also have that vision, especially when you're bringing lots of new people together. So I had a very strong vision just based on kind of all those networking events I went to. I realized it was really important to create a strong network. So I actually realized I didn't say the aims of the conference. So the aims are to spark a passion for the space sector, to promote women and gender minorities all across the space sector, to show that you don't have to be from a technical background to get involved in the space sector, and also to kind of showcase potential mentors or people like role models that young women and gender minorities could look up to. And so I think a lot of those came from that Women in Space networking event that I went to in October 2019, where I saw these mentors. I saw like really inspirational people. It kind of showed me what was out there and available, and kind of sparked my own passion for space. And networking is key, and like it's just been like such an important thing in my own journey that I really wanted it to be at the heart of the conference. And I think especially in Scotland, like there's so much going on, but people don't really know about it, especially like what women are doing in Scotland. And we actually did end up expanding past Scotland's borders, which was really awesome. But I think.
How did you kind of after you conceptualized that, how did you share that with your teammates? And was there ever a conflict in, I want them to believe in me and I want them to join my team, but I don't believe in myself? Was that ever an issue?
I think we received quite a few applications, actually. I was really surprised. It was mainly done through social media and me just emailing lots of universities saying, hi, this is what I'm doing, send this to your students. And a lot of them, I was really touched by all the responses. People were so connected to it, especially in Scotland where the space sector is really small. And so I think it was actually quite easy to get people onto the vision. I think that was actually, I had no problem with that, and I spoke to each person before getting them on the team and wanted to see what their vision was. I think maybe one of the things that was kind of challenging was people, some of my team members really wanted to see it go really big. They were like, why don't we make a huge event and all this stuff, a week-long thing? And I was like, no, we need to start small, build something really good, and then in the future, I said it in a much nicer way, of course, because I think it's a brilliant idea, but I'm thought we needed to start kind of smaller, start in Scotland, and kind of build up from there. I think everyone's visions kind of worked well together, and I was really able to bring everyone together. And I think that's really thanks to the quality of the team members. We had some really, really amazing, dedicated team members who I see some of you have joined in now. So thank you guys. This wouldn't have been possible without you. I think everyone's different voice was so valuable to the team.
Okay, brilliant. And so I was curious about how, when you were reaching out to these universities, how were you balancing your time between being a student, ensuring that you weren't going to fail again, and um, also reaching out and like having these conversations and just doing so many extra things when you started off with just like a team of one person, which is you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like a lot. I think I'm really lucky that I started kind of recruiting for people. Well, I kind of did a lot of the legwork just before university started, but at the same time, I was going to work all day and then I was doing a night course because time zones didn't work out for the European Space Agency. And so, yeah, I think sometimes I didn't handle it well, but I think it's really important to schedule your time. I was really time blocking, I remember at the time, and like I find it really valuable where you literally say, okay, I'm going to spend this time doing this and this amount of time doing this, and I always multiply the time that I think it's going to take by like 1.5 because you always need a little bit of extra kind of room in case stuff goes wrong or stuff takes longer than you think. And so yeah, I think it's really just about like thinking about what's important to you, and I did kind of let go of like a few things at that point, like based on what was important to me at the time. And also just like take care of yourself. And like Wellness Wednesdays, we want to take care of ourselves. We want to make sure that you're happy professionally but also kind of like secure in yourself in your home life and just like taking care of yourself. um
Yeah. And then the other thing I was curious about is
mhm,
when you were reaching out, and maybe this is like related to sponsorships particularly,
mhm.
but when you reached out with collaborations or things like that, were you ever told no? And how did you regroup from that? And how did you kind of pick yourself back up from the rejection? Did it kind of just like fly off? Was it just like a quick, like pesky thing, or did it like bother you for longer? How did you kind of navigate that?
Just in terms of kind of spreading the message of our conference, I think we're really, really lucky that the Scottish space sector is so supportive and that it was kind of like everyone was very interested, but we don't really have the same big companies that like the US has. And so, yeah, it was definitely tough in terms of sponsorship, trying to initially get the ball rolling because so many companies were like, this is a great idea. We would love to be involved, or suggested some people to get involved, but they didn't have the funds to really like help us towards our goal. And a huge, huge supporter, like I think we got most of our sponsorship money from universities, actually from our grant applications. And so we had our brilliant team member Clara was writing up applications and sending them all off. And so that was great because, we could say our vision, like what our vision was, and then they have bucket loads of money. So they were able to sponsor us. But yeah, it was definitely tough, especially when we were told no initially. It was like, no one wants to sponsor us. No one has the money. And yeah, I take things quite personally, but I think with that, I kind of learned, I was like, okay, well, don't worry. There will always be someone who can help out. And so I think we just ended up also the dedication of the team members. So yeah, it all ended up working out. Sorry, I don't know if I've lagged there.
Yeah, can you still hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you all right. Your video is just
Okay.
frozen. But...
Yeah, I think your video is still frozen. I hope this resolves itself as long as we can hear each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there
Um,
you are.
oh, there we go. Okay, so I guess the follow-up question to this is now moving into community. How
Mm-hmm.
did you assemble your team? And before that, how did you know that you were going to assemble a team? Um, did you like have to think about what you would do yourself versus, what others would do? Um, yeah, how did you build a team from like past Scotland's borders, essentially?
That's a really good question. I'm very proud of like how we built the team. I think initially I took a look at the Women in Tech conference that had happened before, and I asked Natalia, who planned the original conference. She founded it. She did tons of stuff for it. Like, what's your advice here? Like, what would you suggest? Because I had no idea how to plan a conference. And so I took her advice there, kind of made some positions based around that and just what she would have done differently. And I also kind of looked at UK SEDS and was like, how did they kind of set everything up? And because the UK SEDS does a huge national student space conference every year. It's good fun, lots of work, but to plan, but also it's brilliant when it comes together. And so, yeah, just looked for inspiration in other things. And in terms of actually looking for team members, I really wanted to fit the person to the role. So I wanted to make sure that, like, okay, you have a really strong vision for the conference. I need you to be my vice chair. Like, I need you to provide me with that strong vision, and like your work ethic is amazing. Or okay, so one of my team members, she is so she was in US like intelligence kind of work, and I think she's here right now. I don't know if she is, but hi, Allie. And she like kind of had that organizational background, kind of knew how to set up stuff, and like of course she didn't know everything, but I was like, okay, we can work with that. And yeah, everything just kind of ended up coming together. And so I spoke with everyone, just made sure they were happy with their positions, and yeah, everyone kind of helped out with other things here and there if we needed help. So it was really great to kind of see team members like sponsorship manager also kind of helping out with like some media stuff from time to time. So it was good to kind of get everyone involved.
Yeah, and can you just share some of the roles that you like kind of started looking for? Like what came out of those brainstorming sessions from UK SEDS and things like that, just so that someone else can like replicate this by being inspired by you?
Yeah, of course. And if anyone ever does like want to speak more about this and how I got set up, like so keen. Like hosting a conference is a huge task, but it's so rewarding. But yes, I'll quickly share some of the positions. So I was the chair, founder, and then I had a vice chair. I had an administrative director who's essentially like a secretary. I had the financial director who's a treasurer, and we were kind of the four main executive people. So we kind of made the higher up decisions. We spoke a lot in our own chat. And we had a media team and a sponsorship team. And so the media team, there were three of them on there, and they each kind of had a different focus, whether it's like writing up captions, creating nice visuals, and also compiling all the posts, because that's actually a much bigger job than you think, like putting all the posts together and making sure it goes out on time. And then we had a sponsorship team, which had like head of sponsorship, two sponsorship directors, and so they kind of all worked together in their own unit. And then we had two at-large members who could step in wherever needed. I kind of each assigned them one to sponsorship and one to media. And then we took on volunteers on the day, because you always need more people than you think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess like following up to all of this, why did you believe that building a community was important for your wellness in an industry when we're often marginalized as women or international students or just minorities?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think it's important, like, I think ideally, everyone wants to be able to, like, you want to go into a situation and not feel like you're different from everyone else, right? You just want to be treated like everyone else. But in reality, that doesn't happen. There's like even really subtle things that happen. Like I remember I went into an internship interview, and somebody was like, "Oh, are you here for the like secretary interview?" And I was like, "Oh, like no, I'm here for the engineering interview." And they were like, "Oh," just like little comments like that can kind of like, it doesn't sound like much, and like I've actually had a really good experience in terms of like support, especially like in Scotland. I think there's like so much focus on trying to get more voices in the space sector. But yeah, I think it's important to have communities of people who share similar experiences. You can support each other, you can work together and kind of try to figure out like, okay, well, what needs to change? And you can kind of like band together and speak to these like people who are in higher up positions, because especially as a student, you're not really in a position of power to like go to someone really important in a space company or any company and be like, hey, this is like what's happening, because like ideally you'd like to, but like that might not make you as likely to get an internship or something, because they're like, oh, this person's gonna complain, even though like it's totally valid like what you're saying.
Right. And
Yeah.
I guess I was curious that given this necessity,
Mhm.
how did you collaborate with all of these people from different time zones, as you shared? And how did you make sure you were both a leader, but also in the trenches with your team?
Yeah, so initially we had like meetings every 2 weeks, but then the management team would meet a little bit more frequently. But then in the run up to the conference, we met kind of once a week, everyone together. And so my admin director, Ali, she was fantastic about sending out like polls. Initially she was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And we worked together to kind of figure out the best system, and she kind of worked it out. And yeah, we sent out almost weekly polls to kind of check in with everyone, made sure if people couldn't make meetings that they would send her a message and we would know. And then if people needed extra meetings or extra support, I'm so open, like with my teams. I'm like, guys, I want you to come and chat to me and tell me what's going on, because yeah, I think the thing about Edinburgh Women's Space is that like we like, not that other organizations don't care, but like our like values are just so much rooted in community that I'm like, I just really want to ensure like an open kind of channel of communication. And so yeah, just keeping an open line of communication, checking in if people like miss a meeting here or there. Sometimes that happens because of time zones, and just making sure, yeah, people feel engaged and connected with everything. So yeah.
In terms of the details, what time or days would you usually have this to connect people from Asia, Europe, and the United States?
Yeah, so yeah, for reference, we had people in Canada, Europe, US, India. It was crazy all over the world. And the meetings for me were around like 9 a.m. Pacific time, which was kind of like end of the day, like 5 p.m.-ish UK time, but it was quite late in India. But the thing is, that worked best for everyone because the majority of our team was in the UK. They wanted to do it after university. I was totally fine to kind of have it at the start of my day. And for the Indian women who volunteered, it was a little bit like, it wasn't ideal for them, but they all believed in the vision so much. And I always made sure to check in with them and make sure they were like, I was like, are you okay with this meeting at like 11 p.m.? Yeah.
No, that sounds so good. Let's see. Okay, and so moving on to the questions of collaboration. So a bigger question, why is international collaboration so important for the space industry?
I love this question because coming from, like, I'd say I'm coming from the Scottish space sector. It's quite a new space sector, and a lot of people don't know about it. And it's like, why is Scotland important here? Why do we want Scotland on the world stage? And it's because we need different voices. I think it's so important to just get as many different countries working together as possible, because the more resources you can pool together, like the more advances you're going to make. And so each country has like different specialties, and each city even has different specialties. And so I think it's important to connect and work together. And plus, I like to think that like if aliens came to Earth, it would be so much nicer if all of us were working together rather than kind of working on our own. So yeah, I think especially with the conference, we were really lucky to have a huge audience of over 50 countries, I think, in attendance. And we had like a lot of focus on like Scottish space, like not all the focus, but we had kind of bits here and there. And I think it was cool for them to kind of learn what we're doing in Scotland. And also Scotland doesn't have the same restrictions as the US. So if you're ever looking as an international, if you're looking to get involved in a really cool upcoming new space sector, Scotland is amazing. And I know tons of internationals who are working in Scotland right now.
That is really, really good to know. Do you have companies off the top of your head that you can rattle that are international, student-friendly space companies in Scotland?
Yeah, so Craft Prospect, I know we had two speakers at the conference. They have, they're both, one's from America and the other I think is from India, I believe. And also Spire Global, I'm pretty sure they have some opportunities in Scotland as well. I think those are two main ones I can think of. Like I can think of so many space companies, but I don't want to like give you the names of them in case they don't offer international opportunities. We have some like cool rocket companies as well, and I think Skyrora and Orbex, I think they offer some international opportunities. But again, like if someone wants to ask about international opportunities, I can certainly look into that with people on like the Scottish Space Leadership Council and just blast out an email being like, hey, where are the opportunities? So
yeah, I think that would be really useful for maybe the buy notes in this live, and then posting it later so that folks who listen to your talk and feel inspired about all the opportunities in Scotland can kind of go all the way through and follow up with those jobs. And okay, so coming back to just collaboration with that community, how did you delegate your tasks when sometimes if you had your vision, maybe you felt like, oh, I could just do that. Or were you really good about saying, oh, well, no, that's your task. Like you can handle that. Even though we recruit teams who do different things, when it's student organizations, sometimes the chair or the founder feels like they're at the end of the day responsible for everything, as a CEO would. And so how did you fight the urge to do it for them, or do it better if you felt like you could do it better? And if that wasn't the case, how did you kind of make sure they were all make sure they all had the same work ethic as you and had the same quality of work? I think sometimes you might have like enthusiastic participants or enthusiastic volunteers, but sometimes it's like hard to judge if everyone like does things as you were envisioning them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Great question. I think, of course, it really varies depending on what sort of organization you're setting up or whatnot. But definitely as a founder, like this conference was my baby. Like it's been in my heart basically since 2018. And so I wanted to see it like kind of done to the best of its abilities. And like I actually just spoke to my admin director like last night kind of about like feedback and how the teams all worked. And so I can kind of speak a little bit more to this just based on her feedback as well. I definitely think so. I tried to leave stuff up to each team member. Like I provided kind of like a layout because I knew that so most of the committee members were all students, like third year university students or whatnot. And so like a lot of them hadn't really had that like experience contributing to such like a large event basically. And so provided them with that. And initially I actually didn't like assign things to people as much, but then I very quickly learned it's really important to make people accountable for things. So even if like I wasn't sure if someone could do it, I'd be like, hey, like Louisa, could you maybe do this? And she like most of the time be like, yeah, sure. But if she couldn't, then I'd find someone else to do that. So very important, make sure you hold people accountable to things. But also I tell people to do stuff and then say, get back to me, I will provide feedback. And so it kind of gave them the freedom to do their own thing, and then I could kind of provide feedback. And maybe sometimes I kind of altered stuff a little bit too much, you know, you live and you learn. But as my admin director kind of said last night, it was the first conference, and of course like we want to make sure that it kind of lives up to your vision, and like we want to make sure that it, like we're on the right footing to kind of grow from here. And now maybe in the future you could trust people to kind of do more things on their own. And so that's what I'm hoping for it to kind of turn into, if that makes sense.
Right. And the other thing I was curious about was when you were reaching out to people who are part of the Scottish space sector, were these resources and connections that you had already, or did you have to build them for the conference? And how did you build that trust? How did you kind of connect with the biggest folks in the Scottish space sector and, you know, have them treat you like an equal who is like doing this like big thing? Yeah, how did you build that rapport?
Yeah, another great question. So also, can I just like preface that by just saying, like, especially people a lot of the time are like really shocked when they hear me speak, and they're like, whoa, you don't have a Scottish accent. And like, so sometimes like, so regardless of where you are in the world, like if you want to make a difference in your local community, like you can reach out to the big names. Like a lot of the times people want to speak to you about what they do. They want you to be excited and engaged. So even if you're like from somewhere like, I don't know, Sweden, and you're in the US and you want to reach out to people in the like US space sector, I mean, maybe it's a little bit more difficult because it's like there's a lot more going on there, but you can definitely reach out to people. But in terms of my experience, I was very lucky to have gained connections through UK sets, and so a few of the people I kind of knew, and also I kind of have no fear when it comes to reaching out to people. I used to be like, this is terrifying, but I've learned like, what the heck, the worst they can say is no, or maybe they'll point you in someone else's direction, be like, you should speak to that person. And so a lot of the people actually I'd heard on podcasts, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I reached out to this awesome person I heard on this podcast? And so that's how I initially kind of started reaching out to people. I used some UK sets connections, but yeah, we had actually a really cool company called Astro Agency that I'd encourage you all to look into. They're really great, like mainly female team, so it's like really cool like that. They managed to put us in touch with so many great individuals in the Scottish space sector. I was like, I didn't even know about this person. Like, what the heck? Where have they been? And so that was, yeah, I think just like reaching out to whoever you can, just like anytime someone reaches out to you, if you are trying to do something like this, on and engage and just see like who you can meet, basically.
No, that's brilliant. And okay, so I think we've covered all of my conference questions. So I have two other questions for you. The first one being, can you tell me about your morning or night routine and what helps you bounce back when you fall off track?
Yeah, great Great question. So I will talk about my morning routine because I'm not gonna lie, my evening routine isn't really down pat. I'm trying to sort it out though. But normally, I mean, I think your morning routine really changes like depending on what's important to you. So I want to preface this by just saying like I don't do this every day, but this is like what I generally will try to do. So I'll wake up in the morning and the first thing I want to do is like get my exercise in before I spend all day sitting at a desk. So I will literally go on a 15-minute walk around like the woods and with my dog, and that kind of gets me started on the right track. And yeah, I think it's really important to also make sure you have enough water because I think, oh, like sounds really dumb, but I think, yeah, I used to not really drink enough water and I could really feel it affect my day. And so I drink water. I have a little 5-minute journal in the morning. So I like write a few, like respond to a few prompts, kind of think about what I'm grateful for and set myself up for the day. Eat some porridge because it's great. And then, yeah, and then I kind of get started on my tasks.
Okay, brilliant. And what do you do when you fall off track? So
Mhm.
making sure you do go on that walk, making sure that you don't just like roll out of bed in the morning and open your laptop and get started on work.
Yeah, I think, hmm, good question. I think like sometimes if I really have fallen off track, I'm like, wow, I haven't been on my morning walk for a while, or wow, I haven't journaled in like 5 days. I will set myself goals for that week and be like, okay, so I know I have a busy week coming up, or I know last week I didn't really do so well. I'm going to set myself like 2 days or 3 days a week where I'm going to make sure I make that a priority. And I think it's really important to schedule things in. It goes back to that whole idea of time blocking. Really valuable for me.
Yeah, can you explain time blocking a little bit more for anyone that may not know what that is?
Yeah, certainly. So there are lots of techniques to get you organized, but I like time blocking. I will explain to you what I do. I will have my Google Calendar open and I will be like, okay, I wake up at this time, usually. And then during this time, this is like my morning routine. And then I want to get started on work at like, say, 8:30. And so then I will say, okay, these are my tasks I want to do during the day. I don't want to put too much pressure to get too much done. So I'll kind of set like big, like kind of bigger chunks of time normally and be like, I want to work on conference stuff for like 2 hours this morning. I know I have emails to respond to. And then what I do is I multiply whatever time I think it'll take me by 1.5 because I know I'm going to get distracted by my dog or something that goes on in the house. And then I will always make sure I schedule in like breaks as well. So I'll make sure I have like 15-minute breaks here or there. And then during those actual study sessions, I use like I think it's like Pomodoro technique, or it's like you set a timer for 25 minutes and you do as much work as you can. And then you take a little break for like 5-10 minutes. And then like you kind of do that for a certain amount of time. So I've found those tools very useful. Google Calendar, very, very useful. And
Yeah.
schedule everything, even breaks, even like socializing with your friends. Really important.
Okay, so my last question for you is what does wellness mean to you as a mechanical engineer and conference founder and UK SEDS executive board member and I feel like I missed one. But yeah, what does wellness mean to you as, oh, and blogger, what does wellness mean to you as all of these things?
Yeah, I think wellness just means really connecting with yourself and thinking like what is right for me in this moment. And of course, like you want to take care of yourself, like in your personal life, you want to take care of your like professional goals. You want to make sure like you're healthy and you're mentally like good and all this stuff. I think wellness is comprised of a lot of things, but I think that like wellness isn't just like necessarily one thing. I think you have to constantly be like questioning. You're like, okay, well, is that the right decision for me at the moment? So I think like reflection is a huge part of wellness. And just, some days I'm like, okay, I need to exercise like for this week like several times because I know it's a stressful week. I need to pound out my energy on the pavement or whatever. And yeah, so I'll kind of make that a priority, and that is kind of wellness for me. And then other weeks I'm like, okay, well, I know I will feel so much better if maybe today I just spend the whole day kind of working on my dissertation or something. And like I think wellness is kind of, I love it because you can kind of make it your own, and I think it's really important to recognize what works for you. And but yeah, make sure you take care of yourself overall, but also just listen to what's right in that day as well, because I know I've planned out stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna get this and this done, but then the day comes and I'm like, that doesn't feel good for me. And so just recognizing that is really important.
Yeah. And what would you say to the girl that had to drop out of university for a while now as the founder of Scotland's First? Women in Space conference?
I would say believe in yourself. Definitely. That'd be one of the things, because you are awesome. You're badass. Like, you can do what you want to do. And I would also say, my mom always says this to me. I think it's a really good tip. It's when one door closes, another door opens. So just because I couldn't like finish my like university with my proper year or whatnot, or my friends were all in the year above me, like I was still exposed to so many cool opportunities. Like I don't think I would be in this position in space if I had continued my university as normal. Like I think I would have been too busy. I would have been like, oh, I need to get these assignments done and whatnot. So I think, yeah, just like view every opportunity as like every kind of failure setback as kind of a new door opening. Yeah, that's kind of, I
No,
think,
that's brilliant. Thank you so much. I feel like it's opened a whole lot of other can of worms of questions for me about like friendship and how that changes when you have to like take time off university for mental health. But all of your questions or all of your answers prior to this have just been so, so good. Thank you so much for joining me on this talk. And to anyone listening, if you like my profile, you will like Christina's, and vice versa. If you like Christina's, you'll probably like mine. So would be grateful for anyone listening to give Christina a follow, as well as myself. And she is such a proponent of taking care of yourself as well while you do big things. And she's also a proponent of not letting space remain within certain borders and building a spectrally diverse team. All the things that I really believe in as well. So Christina, thank you so much for talking to me. You're doing amazing.
Thank
You're
you.
doing amazing, sweetie.
Thank you.
And I will be posting this live right after I cancel it. Sorry, I close it. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Can I just say, like, thank you so much, Ricky. I also didn't mention this, but like Ricky also, I know you had your own conference in Singapore, and I thought that was really awesome, and that also inspired me. I don't know why I didn't like add that in, but yeah, anyone who is from my follow list and you don't follow Ricky, go follow her. She's such an inspiration, so lovely, and yeah, and then I guess second little thing is, if you want to do something crazy like host a conference, then like go for it. Like, it's not going to be an easy road, but so rewarding. And if you're passionate about something, like, you can meet some really cool people. Like, I didn't know anyone really on this committee of 15 people before I started, and now I have all these friends all over the world, and it's incredible. But yeah, just keep working towards your goals. You know, stay inspired and take care of yourself along the way, because yeah, you want to, yeah, huge like kind of supporter of self-care and just making sure you're doing what's right for you.
Yay. Okay. I'm so glad that everyone has, been encouraged to wake up tomorrow and like host a global conference.
Yes.
But yeah, I will be ending the live now. Thank you so much for tuning in. This will be posted on my IGTV, and you can watch it or you can listen to it as if it's a podcast at your perusal. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you, Ricky. Bye, everyone.